So you've got a mortgage, you're making your payments, and everything feels like it's on autopilot. But have you been wondering about ways to pay down that mortgage faster? What's a tried and true method and what's smoke and mirrors? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the real cost of mortgage interest, break down how it's calculated in a way that finally makes sense, and give you practical strategies to get ahead of your loan and potentially shave years off your mortgage. I'm talking about saving money without refinancing, without fancy loopholes, without too good to be true methods, just by better understanding how the mortgage system works. So let's dive in. When people are house hunting, the big question is always, what monthly payment can I afford? And look, I get it. That's the number that determines whether you can buy the home. But if you stop there, you're missing a much bigger piece of the puzzle. That monthly number includes more than just your loan repayment. It hides something important, the interest. And not just a little bit of interest. Most people don't realize that over the full term of a 30-year mortgage, the total interest paid can rival or even exceed the amount that you actually borrowed. Let's say you borrow $250,000 on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. If your interest rate is 4%, you'll pay roughly $180,000 just in interest by the time you're done. At 6%, it jumps to $290,000. And at 8%, you're looking at over $410,000 in interest on a $250,000 loan. That's not a typo. That's reality. Your mortgage broker won't ever discuss it with you. The banks, they don't make it obvious. You won't see it spelled out in bold at closing. It's all baked into the monthly payment, and unless you dig into the fine print, you may never realize how much extra you're actually paying. All right, so let's dig into how the interest is calculated, because once you understand that, everything else will click into place. A mortgage payment has two parts: the principal, which is the amount that you borrowed, and the interest, which is what the bank charges you for lending you that money. Every month, you make a payment that goes partly toward the principal and partly toward the interest. In the early years of the mortgage, the vast majority of your payment goes straight to interest, not your actual loan. Why is that? Well, it's because interest is calculated on the remaining balance of your loan. Here's how it works. Let's say you took out a $250,000 mortgage at a 7% fixed rate over 30 years. To figure out the monthly interest, you divide that 7% by 12, which gives you a monthly rate. Then multiply that by the current loan balance. In the first month, you'd owe around $1,458 in interest. If you didn't pay anything that month, your balance would go up. But once you start making regular payments, things start to shift very, very slowly. At the start, a tiny fraction goes toward the principal. Over time, as the principal loan balance shrinks, the interest portion shrinks too. And that's when your payments finally start making a dent into what you owe. To pay off that $250,000 loan in exactly 30 years at 7%, your payment needs to be around $1,663 a month. That means in month one, your principal payment is only $205. As you keep making payments, your interest payment slowly declines and your principal payment slowly increases. But here's the kicker. By the time you've made all 360 payments, you will have shelled out close to $600,000 in total. That's over $348,000 in interest alone. Let that sink in for a second. That's a lot of money. But before we learn how to fight it, I want to be clear on a couple things. First, it's not bad to pay interest when you have an appreciating asset. We're not talking about car loans or boat loans here. We're talking about real estate. And the power of real estate isn't necessarily the annual appreciation rate. Over long periods of time, it's only slightly higher than the inflation rate, which is much less than the stock market returns. The power of real estate is actually the leverage. You're able to buy an asset you normally couldn't afford through the power of the payment. Second, most mortgages have a fixed payment and a fixed interest rate. Over a 30-year period, those dollars you borrowed are devalued by inflation. That means the mortgage payment often looks smaller and smaller over time as your home's value and your paycheck often grows significantly. Okay, now that you understand how that works, how exactly do we fight back? Well, the key is something called amortization. the schedule that shows you exactly how each payment is split between interest and principal over time. If you've never seen one, ask your lender for a copy of your mortgage amortization schedule, or you can use an online calculator like this one. Just input the home price at purchase, the down payment that you made, the term, the interest rate, and then to the right when the loan started. Then click amortization. Looking at the chart will blow your mind. What you'll see is that in the early years, your payments are doing almost nothing to chip away at the loan. But if you make even small additional payments early on, they can dramatically reduce the amount of interest you'll pay over time and shorten the length of your loan. That's because the extra money you pay goes straight to the principal. And when the principal is smaller, there's less interest to calculate next month. It creates a compounding effect that's in your favor and is very powerful in the early years of a loan. So let's walk through 4 smart strategies that you can use to take advantage of that, and one bonus strategy that may apply over the next couple years. Let's say that you decide to put an extra $100 towards your mortgage every month. Your regular payment is $1,663. So now you're paying $1,763. That doesn't seem like a lot, right? But that extra bit makes a huge difference. Look at what happens when we plug in $100 a month in an extra payment. Your 30-year loan gets paid off in just around 25 years, and you save about $66,000 in interest. That's $100 a month to own your home 5 years earlier and keep 5 figures in your pocket. That's a pretty solid return. Now let's say you can stretch a bit more. Maybe you skip a couple takeout meals or hold off on a new phone, and you're able to put an extra $250 towards your mortgage each month. You'll pay off the loan in about 20 years instead of 30, and you'll have saved around $126,000 in interest. That's almost a third of the original loan amount is just gone. Money that you now get to keep in your net worth. Amazing. Here's another way to make a dent. Say you get a bonus or a tax refund and you put $5,000 towards your mortgage in month 24. Just that one single payment knocks off almost 2 years from your mortgage term and saves you nearly $29,000 in interest. One big move, long-lasting impact. What if you were able to do that every year? It's actually better than paying in every month if you can make a lump sum payment in the beginning of the year and then rebuild your savings throughout the year. Okay, this strategy is often overlooked, but it's incredibly effective. Instead of making one monthly payment, you split it in half and pay that amount every 2 weeks. Because there are 52 weeks in a year, that ends up being 26 half payments or 13 full payments instead of 12. That one extra payment each year pays off the loan in about 23.7 years and cuts your interest costs by $86,500. You barely feel the difference month to month, but the results are massive. You ready for the bonus strategy? Well, recently there have been a number of calls for the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates.
And if we had a person over at the Fed that would lower interest rates a little bit, that would be helpful too.
That may happen in coming months and years, and if it does, we need a solid strategy to take advantage of them. 2000 to 2021 was a 2-decade period where mortgage rates steadily declined. Since that point, they've steadily risen from all-time lows below 3% to 30-year rates that are above 7%. One of the best strategies to pay down a mortgage fast occurs when interest rates start to drop. So here's the strategy. If you're currently a few years into a new loan at these higher rates, you should be able to afford your current payment. When rates start to drop, you refinance your existing loan to lower the rate. When you do so, you'll get a lower monthly payment. How much lower depends on what rates are when you refinance and how far into the loan you are. And most people just stop here. They just pay the new lowered payment, freeing up cash flow to spend on other things. But a very smart strategy is to keep paying your previous payment. Why? Because you could afford it previously, and now the difference between your old payment and the new one will be 100% applied to the principal on the loan. You're able to make additional principal payments without any money coming out of your own pocket. How cool is that? For example, let's say you purchased a $400,000 home with 20% down in July of 2023 with a 30-year loan at 6.75%. Your monthly payment is $2,075. Let's say that in a year from the publish of this video, July 2026, mortgage rates have dropped to 5.5%. Your $320,000 loan principal at the start has been paid down to $308,703. You decide to refinance the loan. For this example, we're going to assume no costs, but of course there could be some. You can see that your new refinance loan payment is $322.73 less than your current loan. And if you just pay the stated amount, you'll pay about $39,000 less in interest. It's not bad, but rather than spending that cash flow increase, keep making the same payment that you've been making. That $322.73 goes right to principal every month. And this is what happens. Your loan is paid off roughly 9 years faster, and you save $153,319 in interest. All of that without a single dollar coming out of your pocket. This is an outstanding strategy that can be used in a declining interest rate environment. Who knows if that will show up over the next few years, but if it does, you will be ready. All of these methods are really just different ways of doing the same thing. Pay extra towards your principal. Whether it's a few bucks every month, a single lump sum, or bi-weekly payments that fly under your radar, it all adds up. And the earlier you start, the more powerful the effect. So what doesn't make sense? In my opinion, if you are in the last third of your loan, paying extra isn't providing you much benefit. Your balance is pretty low. Your interest payments are pretty low. So most of your payment is just towards principal. You can most likely earn a much better return on that money by saving and investing it rather than paying down the last third of the loan with extra payments. If you want to accelerate your mortgage payments, it's best to do it in the first 10 years of the loan and really in the first 5 to 7 years. That's where you get the most bang for your buck. At the end of this video, I've included a summary table that shows how these strategies perform under both a 4% and 7% interest rate environment. You'll be able to compare how much faster the mortgage is paid off and how much money is saved in each case. I hope it's helpful. So many people are intimidated by the idea of learning how mortgages work. It's math, and I get it, a lot of people don't like math. But the reality is, once you understand the basics, you gain control. You can stop blindly following the default plan that benefits the bank and start making moves that benefit you. Does paying extra to your mortgage always make sense? Of course not. Sometimes the goal is to use other people's money to buy assets, freeing your capital to buy other assets like stocks, bonds, other real estate properties, Bitcoin, or businesses. But accelerating a paydown in the early years of a mortgage can be highly beneficial, especially if the interest rate is 5%, 6%, 7%, or even higher. I hope you have a greater understanding of how mortgages work, some simple paydown strategies, and when it may not make sense to accelerate your payments. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend who may like it. And if you own a business and are interested in organizing your financial planning, you can get started working with me today by visiting celestialwm.com and clicking the Start Here tab to schedule an initial call. Still not sure that you want to talk? Well, head over to my resource center and learn more about my financial planning process by watching my 35-minute complimentary training. And be sure to check out this video next for even more ways to supercharge your net worth.